I'm Diana Falzon with NewsNation. Retired Navy Commander Bill Phillips, a distinguished military veteran whose remarkable journey is a testament to resilience and perseverance. After serving in the Navy for 23 years, Commander Phillips faced one of his life's toughest battles, fighting cancer. His life or death struggle led him to establish the KFG Project in April 2025, which stands for Keep Effin' Going, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting cancer affected military personnel, emergency responders, and adolescent and young adult patients and caregivers. Through his leadership and unwavering commitment, Commander Phillips inspires others to embrace hope and strength in the face of adversity. Welcome, Bill. Happy Veterans Day.
Hey, thank you very much. Great to be here.
Thank you. Can you share a bit about your years in the Navy? You piloted fighter jets. Like that is a whole new level of super cool.
I appreciate it. I come from the electronic attack community, so we're more of like support, kind of airborne quarterback, dominating the electronic spectrum. So we enable those real fighters and boots on the ground to get in and do their mission. So whereas radars, anything that emits a signal, we're controlling that. So that was first probably 15 years or so of my career, and then I spent the latter part of that in the Pentagon working on acquisitions and test and evaluation. So getting all the new things, the new widgets to the warfighters that are out there today.
What was the moment that made you decide that you wanted to serve our country?
It was actually 9/11. So I was
Wow.
working in DC, and country's under attack, and I'm looking up and I see helicopters flying over. My father was a helicopter pilot in the Navy, so yeah, that just seemed like the right thing to do. Went to the recruiter, and the rest is history.
Wow. So it was in your blood. It was something you were raised with. Um, and you served our country for, as we said, 23 years. And after 23 years in the Navy, you were preparing to retire and enter civilian life. And then you were faced with a devastating diagnosis of cancer, stage 3. Can you tell us about what led to receiving a cancer diagnosis and what were some of your symptoms?
Yeah, so I was approaching that last year of active duty, and for an aviator, that's when we were like, okay, it's when we can be a little bit more open of what's bugging us. And really, if you think so, it's colorectal cancer.
Mhm.
Started seeing some blood where you normally wouldn't, and but it was only a little bit, so I really didn't think it was something to be concerned about. No family history, very limited cancer in my family, so I went and spoke to my flight doc, and gotten a couple appointments at Walter Reed. Fast forward about 5 months later, I got a colonoscopy. So not really fast forward. It took a little while to get the colonoscopy, but that's when they found a tumor. And
Wow.
yeah, my life changed right there.
Yeah. I can only imagine how just absolutely earth-shattering and life-altering that was. What was your initial reaction to your cancer diagnosis?
Well, the hardest part, you think, hey, you have cancer. Well, I didn't hear those words right away. I heard, we found something substantial. It's a tumor, and we need to do some tests before we can, confirm that it is in fact cancer. But we're going to treat it like it is because this is significant. So
Mm.
I had to wait 2 weeks for the
Oh,
imaging and the pathology to come back. So for 2 weeks, I knew I had a massive tumor and had no idea where it had spread throughout my body, if it had, or
mhm.
I had some close friends that are doctors, so I did have a great support network, and told them what was going on. They came and supported me. But yeah, a lot of stuff goes through your mind in those 2 weeks where you're not sure, how long you have left on this earth.
Of course. And you mentioned in a previous interview that military aviators have a history of healthcare avoidance out of fear of losing their flying status and associated monthly flight pay. Do you think that if you were not ready to retire, you might have downplayed your symptoms in order to keep going?
Absolutely. I had very minimal symptoms, and I've talked to other patients with the same cancer, similar tumor staging and everything, and they
Mhm.
had significant symptoms. So my body reacted differently, and I would have likely just kind of waited a little bit longer, and very likely would have been faced with stage 4.
A lot of times we as people just don't want to deal with something, right? Especially when it comes to health stuff. You're like, well, it's not that troublesome. Like I can push through it. I can handle this. For people watching, I mean, what were some of the initial symptoms that you kind of scoffed off as maybe something minimal or something that would just resolve on its own?
Yeah, I just figured like, I'd see a little bit of blood sometimes, and just a little
Mm.
bit. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it's stress. I'm in a stressful, job. I'm in the Pentagon, and it's a high stress environment. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to wait until I would hit that year mark because I've had previous incidents where an injury resulted in something where I lost my flight pay, and that's a pay
Mhm.
cut. For many of us,
Yeah.
that's about $1,000 a month pay cut, and we know now, or today's, it's pretty expensive, and with a family of three, I had three kids, any amount of pay cut is substantial to just our everyday well-being. So, I just downplayed it for a
Mhm.
number of those reasons. And like you said, and I've said before, aviators, we have a history of healthcare avoidance. We don't want to be med down. We don't want to be
Yeah.
taken out of the cockpit. That's our job. That's what we do. Even supporting in the Pentagon, I'm not actively flying, but I'm supporting warfighters. But with a history of a flying career, we still receive that incentive pay because we have spent hours, thousands of hours in the cockpit, and that takes a toll on the body as well. So
Yeah.
it's something you don't want to lose for many reasons.
But you also don't wanna lose your life, right? So you have to kinda strike that balance of really following up and making sure that you are healthy and you are okay or catching something at an early stage. What is your advice to someone who is active in the military and is having worrying symptoms but fears losing their livelihood?
Yeah, it's not worth it. So
Mhm.
a flight pay is not worth the rest of your life. So just go speak to your doctor. And we do have several resources. We have your primary care physician, but there are others. And reach out and just start talking to somebody or a friend or somebody who may have similar experience or symptoms. It's a very broad network that we have. So even a leader, someone in your command, to just make sure you're speaking up and getting the help or the resources that you need.
Can you tell us a bit about what you endured in order to reach your cancer remission? Because I was reading about some of the things. I mean, you've gone through so much. You went through chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, so many different medications that just were just brutal.
Yeah, it's a grueling process. You're trying to get something out of your body that's trying to kill you. Your cells are mutating uncontrollably, and if something's not done, it will kill you. So, not long after we confirmed it was in fact cancer, I started radiation. Did that about 6 weeks of radiation. So I'm in Walter Reed every day, 5 days a week, and get about a month off, and then start chemo and chemotherapy. I did 6 cycles,
Wow.
with 3 weeks in between. So a few months of that, then I get a few months off, and then I had a low anterior resection surgery, where they took a lot out. I call it my new plumbing configuration. So got my plumbing reconfigured, and then had an ostomy bag for 6 months. So that was reversed. And then that starts a new, just gamut of challenges where I'm trying to learn how to now operate every day with what I have left, and it's relearning. It's
Mhm.
teaching your body how to function with what it has left.
What kept you going during that time?
I have to say it's a little bit of stubbornness and a lot my network, just the people that came to support me. We kind of don't realize how many people, how broad our network is in the military, and then just friends and family outside. So Um, and then my kids, I've got three kids. They're in middle school, one in high
Yeah.
school, and like, they look at you like, okay, you got something wrong, but like, I still have to get to practice. I got a game this weekend, and I want to go see my friends. So it's putting on that normal face. And for me, it was they were like right after chemo, they were like, we want to go skiing. I'm like, okay, so we went skiing, and I had my skis. I did was just in case. I don't know. Anyway, I ended up skiing with him, and probably against what the doctors would suggest. But it was one of those many moments where I had where I was like, no, I can do hard things. We're built to do hard things, and it
Mhm.
just fueled me. I had a number of other things that very similar experiences, but it just fueled me to like, yeah, keep effing going. Like, don't stop. I have to get through this, and I have the rest of my life to experience.
Yeah, when something hits you, like a cancer diagnosis and a stage 3 cancer diagnosis, we all know, right, that one day we will die. We don't like to think about it. We're in the moment. We don't want, and when we think about death, we think about being old and having a good long life. But when you're faced with a cancer diagnosis like yours, did you make peace with potentially being at the end of your life far too soon?
So in that 2 weeks, right after I knew I had something, um, I started to, and then I was kind of going back and forth with like, I'm not ready yet. This isn't.
Mhm.
I know this happens. There are people, too many awesome people that have lost their lives to cancer far too soon, and I've known some. And I also had people that I knew in my circle who had passed away of cancer in while I was in treatment, but even in the one person in those 2 weeks. So I just I wanted to wait until the data came, until they confirmed what it was. But in my mind, in those 2 weeks, I had to focus on survival and beating this at all costs. And that's what when I thought and I had that mindset, I just felt it like internally, like it was a fuel that I knew was going
Mhm.
to help me keep going.
Has what you went through altered your life view in any way?
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. I took life for granted. I was in this, the rat race we call it, just going through the motions.
Mhm.
And then when things got real stressful, I would drink a little. I would drink, and I would kind of escape, and I wasn't present enough, and I was worried about things that hadn't happened yet. It was the anxiety of like, something that just that's not what I should be worrying about right now. So I learned to be more present. I just learned, just eating healthy, and then movement and all these modalities. That's where I got plugged into this coaching, world of coaching and great people that helped me get out of that mindset that I was stuck in, where it was just like, go do the things, pass out, rinse, repeat, go do it again the next day.
Mhm. So for you, it allowed you to really be grateful for the life you're leading. Because I think you're right. I think it happens, especially in like they call them the sandwich years when you're raising kids. You perhaps have parents that are aging and you're kind of at the peak of your career and you're just going, 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 going. And you forget that life is really fragile and that you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And we hear all these cliches all the time, right? Like, oh, yeah, don't take life for granted. It could be your last day. You're not promised tomorrow. But then you're confronted with that. But not only did you go through a harrowing ordeal and you came out of the other side of it with your restored health, you decided to give back. You started KFG. Tell us about your nonprofit.
Yeah, I couldn't take all of these awesome things and these great people that were either in my life or came to my life and just go back to the way I was living before. So I'll just give you a brief, like while I was in chemo, I hit a very, very low point. I had a relationship that was crumbling,
Mhm.
and on top of the cancer stuff, the stress of the kids. And a friend, a former squadron mate, brought me out to Arizona to go see the World Series. I thought that was the highlight of that trip, but no, I met a life coach the next day. He's a coach that works with professional athletes, and something just clicked. And that in that moment, I felt everything shift where like, okay, I'm looking at how is life, who am I and what does life look like after cancer treatment?
Mhm.
So, and learning things, like things don't happen to us, they happen for us. Like what can I gain from this experience? So fast forward, I went through a coaching program while still in treatment, met all these amazing coaches, and it's just like keep effing going was what kept me going. And so many of the other patients that I met at Walter Reed, And as I was talking to the patients, talking to my therapist at Walter Reed, talking to these coaches, it just made sense. I want to start something to give back. It's a blueprint for everything that worked for me during treatment. And the name just made sense, right? It's like, well,
Hmm.
keep effing going. Why not? It's a project. It's all these things. It's like an amalgamation of all these amazing modalities and people that came into my life. And that's what the organization is. And we're giving that back to people that have a similar experience to me.
What services do you offer, and who is the demographic?
Yeah, so the services primary is coaching. It's
Mhm,
life coach, professional life coaching. So these coaches are went through a program. Most of them went through a program similar to me. They're ICF certified, so International Coaching Federation. We have some other coaches that are just trained in these excellent modalities like breath work. Breath work is huge, and that was what my coach got me into almost immediately.
mhm,
Just think meditation, mindfulness, yoga. There's a lot of data out there, a lot of studies that just suggest just basic things like connecting to something greater than yourself, whatever your spirituality may be, religion, the universe, like connect to that, eat healthy, everything you put in your body matters, movement. And then that's a lot of the, just getting out, going for a walk in nature. Like it's information that's there and we know it, but it's kind of like tuned out. It's hard to get through the noise to remember that that's what we need most. So these coaches are not just coaching, they have specialties in these different modalities. So we get you in, we start with the coaching, we introduce you to it, and then we introduce you to other modalities, and it kind of builds this toolkit, these resources that you now have, and work through your health crisis, which is most cases going to be cancer, to
mhm.
work into survivorship. And now you have all these tools as a survivor, because it doesn't stop when you finish treatment. We still get scans for some of us the rest of our lives. If you're stage 3 or below, it's for 5 years. And those
Yeah.
scans every 6 months, you're freaking out like, is it back again? So it's
Mhm.
preparing mentally for that.
And with your nonprofit, you've created your own community, your own network for people who might not have one. I mean, not everybody is fortunate to have someone to call upon when they're in their darkest moments in life. I think that's why you see people fall into massive depressions or don't have the ability to, keep effing going because they don't have anyone to go for. So, with what you're doing, you're telling people, hey, I might not know you in that way, but I'm going to be here for you. And that's a huge thing for someone to feel in a world that can be quite lonely.
Oh yeah, we're social beings. We need connection, whether we know it or not. And the pandemic isolated many of us.
Yeah.
But that connection to a coach is the beginning, and then you start to meet more people that are like you find these connections. So it's not just military, right? I was active duty when I was diagnosed, and I saw too many service members that are in that young adult category, so under 40 years old. I was 45 when I was diagnosed. They're under 40 years old, and like that's hard to see. So it's active duty, it's veterans, it's those young adults, right? Their spouses or whoever their caregiver is. Because I'd be sitting in a waiting for an appointment in a waiting room sometime, and somebody's getting animated and upset. It happens in the doctor's office, and it wasn't usually the patient, it was the caregiver who's there supporting them, and they've got their concerns, their stress. So they need support too.
Mhm.
Service or police, fire, any emergency responders. I had a friend from high school pass away of stomach cancer just this past January.
I'm sorry.
And and then I grew up on the Jersey Shore. I saw 9/11. I saw the firefighters then, right? We know that those firefighters working on ground zero suffered respiratory illnesses and cancers.
Mhm.
So, and then they're the ones going into a fire with the smoke, still to this day, right? So those those people that serve their country in whatever capacity of their civic duty, they gave back. Like, we want to support them as well, because usually we're not the ones to speak up and say that we have an issue. We want to help other people,
Yeah.
and we're not as vocal about what's going on ourselves. So KFG is all about really focused on those communities and bringing them together and realizing, hey, you're not alone, and there are other people like you, and let's we do group coaching as well. So It's really about that social aspect that we often take for granted.
How can people in need reach out?
Yes, so you can find us on the socials. We're on all of them, but the main one is kfgproject.org. That's our website. We have an apply button. If a volunteer wants to, just work with us and volunteer, there's a volunteer button. The donate button is probably my favorite button, because that is certainly needed for a nonprofit in order to provide these free resources. Because again, they're free, and
Yes.
but to apply, it's a big red button, and go there and just give us a little bit of information about yourself, and then someone will reach out and we'll get you started.
Thank you, Bill. And it is so powerful that you're sharing your story and you're now helping others through your nonprofit. And I just want to add that link again. You can learn more about the KFG project. Go to kfgproject.org. Thanks again, Bill.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diana. It's great being here.
And for more news you need to know, visit newsnationnow.com.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.